What is going on, you guys? So today I want to just make a super quick video, or as quick as possible, about some common dating mistakes that I see from guys. So I've had a ton of conversations with guys, and I've done some of these myself. So I've noticed a few common things that guys are kind of stumbling on or fumbling in the dating process. So I'll go through these as quickly as possible, sort of almost in linear fashion, right? So from like the early stages to the relationship part. So earlier stages, I heard this so much. I used to say things like this, and I heard this so much from guys when I was talking to them on like a call, and basically, or even friends too, right? So they would say something to me to the effect of, oh yeah, like the interaction went really well, and then I don't know what happened. Or the interaction went really well, and it just sort of fell apart from there. Or I didn't hear from her again. I don't know really what happened. Like things started to go downhill then. I don't know what happened. Well, it might help you, because I heard that so many times, that it might help you to start figuring out what happened. Especially because I notice a lot of people get stuck in a cycle, right? So I've heard everything from people struggling to get first dates, third dates, or they always date a girl for 3 months and then it falls apart there, or they always date a girl for 3 years and it falls apart there. Like you'll start to notice that some people get stuck in a cycle of some sort. And it's not just with dating, it's with other things too. But that means that there might be something for you to look at there so you can tweak. And I want you to take full accountability here, because it's not just that. It takes two to tango, which means that there's also something you're doing that's causing it to fall apart there. And it could be one thing, because there's little things that you can tweak during the dating process, and there's also things that you can tweak about yourself, right? Because maybe you're not being or practicing being your best self, so you might not be attracting that kind of partner, like the best partner, the highest quality partner for you, right? But even with that, like I've also heard this from guys too, like they had like a really great girl that they were dating, or they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they were seeing each other for a long time, and they really wanted it to work out, and it fell apart, and sometimes it was stuck in a cycle. So that's number one. Like I want you to just look out for where you usually get stuck, like you're spinning your tires in the dating process, and that actually will apply to other areas of your life as well. So to keep that in mind. And another thing I noticed, especially early in the dating process, was guys, let's say, because a lot of guys, there's sort of two parts of this, right? There's some guys who come up with the excuse that modern dating has changed, and all we're supposed to do is use dating apps right now. Which is another way of saying, or I'll translate that for you, which is a way of saying, I don't have the confidence I want in myself, and to just approach this girl and see where it leads. And I want to help you a little bit here, because your ego might have jumped up to defend you a little bit just now. It's okay. It's all good. I'm going to help you, okay? So number one, I want you to realize that you're scared of a girl who's probably shorter than you, and she also poops just like you. Boom. You're probably not scared of her anymore now. But if you are, here's another thing that will really help you, actually. So number one, if you're doing all the things that you want to be doing, or that you say you're going to be doing, then you probably trust yourself and you're probably confident in yourself. Because I think a lot of times the lack of confidence is because you don't really trust yourself and you're not doing the aligned actions to be your best self. So you might feel a little more anxious or nervous when wanting to talk to a girl that you find attractive, right? Like maybe you feel like undeserving for some reason, or not worth it, which again, that addresses the big thing, like, okay, why is that? What mindsets or mental blocks, mental barriers, what things do you need to work through to realize, no, like, I am working on myself, like, I did all these things, I'm working to become better, and I'm focusing on these things, like, I know that there's certain things that I have to improve. So, like, also giving yourself some credit too. And then one big thing I think will help you, especially when it comes to approaching girls, because that's like a secret hack, secret cheat code, right? It's not really a secret because dating apps are, even though they're like 10 years old or more, that's what people used to do, is they met in person, right? So I want you to think about this. You see someone that you want to talk to, and maybe you get a little anxious. Think about that as that, and shift it from nervous to excitement. Like, oh, I'm excited about what might happen here. Let's see what happens. And also, one game changer would be, okay, she's cute, or she's beautiful, if she's attractive. Now let's find out if she's cool. Because a lot of guys are too worried, even later in the dating process, like if the girl likes them. What you should be focusing on is, do you like her? Is she a good fit for you? And this is not from a point of like ego or like being defensive. It's like, no. Like this will be helpful for you, right? Because the attraction, because she has to be attracted to you first too, right? That's what gets you both in the door with each other. Afterwards, you find out if they're cool. And if you actually like them and you want to spend more time with them, and maybe you want to develop something more like a relationship or something that works for both of you. So think about those things. And one big thing I see a lot when it comes to specifically guys approaching girls is that they make the mistake of getting a phone number and not providing a reason. Right? So basically, they don't lead it up to something like, oh, like you seem like a cool girl, let's grab a coffee sometime. Because they know why you're asking. You don't need to explain it. Now, if you skip that part where you tell them like a coffee or boba or ice cream or a drink or whatever you do, I'm just personally not a drinker. And if you're not, you can also enjoy the bar environment, like a chill lounge or like a music bar, and get a mocktail. That's like a cheat code to this too, right? Or just like a soda water, right? Like you don't need to drink. Boom. This should help you a lot. And so the reason I'm saying this is because it gives you a reason. Like it's justified now, and you don't need to explain it more. Like, oh, you seem like a cool girl, let's grab a drink, or let's grab a coffee sometime. Or maybe you talked about boba or Thai tea. Like, just say that, and she'll be like, okay, here's my number, right? And you can like hand you your phone. A lot of guys, they skip that, and they just ask for the girl's number. Like, and the thing about like saying, let me grab your number, or what's your number, is you're kind of assuming they're going to say yes, and it shows more confidence. And the funny thing about that is they can still say no if they really don't want to. And they will, right? So it's all about assuming a position of confidence and assuming attraction until shown otherwise. And so if you skip that, a lot of guys will get the phone number without providing a reason, and the girl's like a little bit, it's like on shaky foundation. Like the girl's kind of thinking like, okay, well, he didn't really talk to me too much before asking for the number, or he didn't really like bring up a reason like why does he want my number? Like, to talk to me, to go on a date? Like, what is that? And so they might be a lot less likely to text you back, right? And that's another funny thing, like what I said in the beginning, is when guys are like, oh, it was going really well. Like, I approached her, it was going really well. I got her number, and then I don't know what happened. Well, you might have gotten a fake number, or they might not have been interested enough because you didn't build enough rapport or give them a reason that you wanted the number to set up a date, right? So they might have given you a real number and then just not texted you back. That's also possible. Or if your Instagram really isn't, like, let's say you exchanged Instagrams instead of phone numbers. If your Instagram isn't optimized and doesn't look good, then basically it's going to be a lot harder for you, because you're going to see that and be like, I don't know. Like, I mean, he seemed cool in person, but then they like saw your Instagram, and maybe like something about that kind of like turned them off, right? So you can give out the Instagram once you optimize it, but the better route would be to get a number, usually. I mean, you could get both, but usually the number, especially if your Instagram isn't optimized yet, then you can switch over if you want. Now, those are some early things. And then this is something I actually used to do. I would slip up on, like, let's say date 1 through 3. And I got pretty good at asking deeper questions. So it wasn't like interview mode the whole date, right? Like, do you have siblings? How many brothers do you have? You know, where did you grow up? Like, you know, see what I'm saying? Like, very robotic, very emotionless. Like, you're not really creating a connection. You could ask more questions like, what was it like growing up in that place, right? Or like, you ask them, like, you know, what they do, and they tell you their career that they're in, and you could say, well, okay, well, what makes you passionate about that? Like, what got you into that? Right? And you can start like, there's ways to dive deeper into this. Now, that was one layer that I used to make a mistake on, and I see a lot of guys make a mistake on this too, is they lack deeper connection questions, or the ability to make those deeper connections. And then the other thing that I see I did, and a lot of guys do, is they lack flirting. So you have to tie in the flirting as well, because if you don't tie in the flirting, that's usually where you get this line. You'll finish the date, and then sometime soon after the date, you'll get something like a text to the effect of, hey Robert, like, I had a lot of fun with you, it was great getting to know you, and I just want to be respectful. I didn't really feel any chemistry, or I didn't really feel a connection, and I wish you all the best. Just something kind of close to that. And basically what they're saying is, you probably didn't kind of make it more man to woman, right? Like, maybe you're laughing and you tap them on the shoulder a little bit, or their elbow, right? Or just make some slight physical touch, like breaking the touch barrier on the date. And it's not just that. By the way, always pull back if the girl doesn't seem ready for any sort of physical, like, touch barrier breaking. Always pull back, because you want to respect her. And switching this, by the way, to the other aspect of flirting, because it's not just the laughing and the touch barrier, it's also being able to tease her a little bit in a fun way, not being a jerk, right? Like, in a fun way, like, it's more playful. Like, for example, let's say she knows, like you find out that she's into Game of Thrones. Instead of saying like oh like, oh wow, like, you're such a nerd, right? Like, sometimes it's about your delivery and your tone. But if you flip it from that to something like, yeah, like, I knew something was giving me Xerxes vibes from you, right? And basically, if you watch the show at all, you know that Xerxes is like this blonde girl. She's sort of like a bit of like a villain in it. I'm not the expert on the show myself. That's just what I hear. But and maybe someone in the comments will correct me on that. But like, you see what I'm doing? Like, you're kind of like making a playful assumption. Like, oh yeah, I was getting like this sort of like villain vibes from you or something. And it's kind of like a bit of a push pull, right? Like you're kind of like pushing her away in a playful way, and then she'll be like, well, why? Like, why do you think that? You know, so it's you can be more fun. Or one of my favorite ones to do is maybe she's like a gym girl, or she's into her health, and she talks about the gym, and you could ask her like, okay, like awesome, like I really respect that you're super into taking care of your health. Now flex for me, right? And you have her basically put her arm out and flex her bicep, and you just keep going like, okay, come on, I'm ready now. Come on, I'm ready. Flex. And then she'll probably like kind of like hit you lightly on the shoulder afterwards, or like your chest, because she'll know like you're kind of messing with her. Like I was flexing. And that's just like a really funny example, like something you can mess with. I'm giving you guys like all the secret sauce here, but this video was supposed to only be about common mistakes I see from guys, but I want to help you too. So those are some secret sauce tips. Now, let's say you're a little bit farther into this, right? So an easy one, and I don't want to dive into this too much here. So number one, you probably didn't get farther than date 1, 2, or 3 because you lacked the deeper connection and flirting part, right? Leading that with confidence. And then later, there's certain things that she's going to do subconsciously as a woman that'll be like sort of like test questions, like are you who you say you are you a potential good fit long term, like what kind of guy is this, right? And you have to be able to sort of go through these things confidently, sort of like pass the tests. And again, right, they're not doing it to be mean or evil, right? It's just like you have to be able to be playful with them, as well as set boundaries in certain circumstances. Because a lot of men forget that part. Like they either shift when they become comfortable with the girl, and so they become more and more comfortable, and they're not the man that they were that attracted the girl, if they don't keep leveling up, or they lack the boundaries in the first place. So maybe during certain tests that the girls did, you missed it, and you didn't lay a strong boundary in a calm, level-headed way, right? Just let her know, like, hey, like, you know, I just want to be respectful of our time. I know we said that, you know, we would meet at this time, and, you know, it seemed like, you know, for some reason, like, you were a little bit late today. Like what was the reason for that, right? Or maybe she's on her phone during the date, right? Which is a bad sign. Although what I've seen in the past works for this. Another secret sauce tip is because you can build respect there too. You want them to have high genuine interest in you, first of all, right? So ideally they're not even doing those things, like any tests, stuff like that. But let's just say she's not really testing you, but she has like a bit of like a phone or social media addiction, and she gets on her phone during the date. Well, one, you know, hopefully she would be higher interest so she doesn't get on her phone. But number two would be, well, you would want to say something to her like, hey, like, it seems like, is there something that you need to take care of? And then maybe if she does it like a second time, you could be like, hey, like, you know, it seems like you're busy with something. Like, is there something that you really need to go take care of? And usually she'll stop then. And if she doesn't, I mean, maybe she does it like a third time, you can just be like, hey, like, you know, I think we should call this off here. Like, yeah, I'll get you like an Uber home or something like that, right? and just like calmly exit the date. Go ahead and pay still like normal, but these are some basic things that a lot of guys miss in the beginning. And again, like those boundaries and things, they translate into later in the relationship. So if you miss that, number one, that's going to affect your relationship in the long term because you didn't set the boundaries early. And so the girl doesn't know. And sometimes they'll be a little like weirded out when you set the boundary later. Like, oh, like this was cool before. Like what's going on now? And it's okay to change as a person, right? It's just like I'm giving you the heads up, like the warning, like do your best to show them who you are and what you're willing to work with and not work with in a relationship early in some of those boundaries. And then lastly, with the masculine frame thing, I mean, I'll just give you a super easy example here, like, because you'll still get the tests and things later in the relationship. You know, you're like girlfriend and boyfriend now, or husband and wife, maybe you have a kid, whatever. Like, there's a lot of guys who, for some reason or another, the wife started testing them again. And it's because maybe she saw that you were not doing as well in a certain area. Like you're sort of like flatlining or declining rather than improving, right? Like maybe she'll be like, oh, hey, babe, like, do you want to go to the gym today? Or you said you wanted to work out the other day. Like she'll kind of like throw little subtle things or even something kind of unrelated out. And she's really trying to tell you like, hey, what's going on? Like seems like you're not working as hard. Things like that. Maybe you start loosening up your boundaries around the gym or work, right? So she's like, oh, babe, you're always so busy working. No. You should make time for dates with her, of course. Especially if it's a long relationship, like at least once a week or something. But also having boundaries for yourself and around the relationship. Like, I'm going to get this work done. It's always like, as soon as I'm done with this, then we'll start the date or then we'll hang out. Then we'll have some quality time. Especially if kids are involved, you want to have a date without them too. And then also, because that's like business and work stuff, right? But a lot of guys will slip into the other thing, like the dad bod one's like super common, right? Like, and that goes back to like, oh babe, like didn't you want to work out the other day? Or sometimes you'll even hear from them like, oh, I kind of like you with a little bit of fluff on you, like I like the dad bod, it's cool, or like it's cute, right? But like realistically, like just to be real with you, like if she had a choice between chubby and you looking like Captain America, right? Just as like a funny example, like that or an Avenger, she's gonna pick the healthy version, always. The one that's not only the fitness, like learning, growing, building their business, becoming their best self, always. The fitness as well, right? So she's gonna have so much more respect for this one. And I know life happens, so sometimes you're gonna have to start working back into the Avengers body, right? So with a superhero body. So, and that's a super common example because that happens a lot with guys, like the dad bod. They slip on the fitness. They're comfortable in a relationship. They got the girl now. Oh, I can let my foot off the gas. I got it. I got the life I wanted, and then it slips. And actually, one last thing that I want to mention here, I just made a video about some potential red flags to look out for. So I'm not going to go into that in this video, but I would say that a lot of guys lack the ability, they get into a long-term relationship because they made concessions for a girl, like, especially if they got like physically intimate with her. They make concessions for a girl. Like, oh, you know, like she did this one thing that wasn't really cool or maybe was a red flag. But, you know, really she's a nice girl. Like, she means well, this and that. Like, you start to make concessions for her when really it's not the best fit for you. And you never should have gotten into a relationship with them, or you never should have had kids with them. Right? I mean, there's a slippery slope, especially when it comes to like US stuff, right? Like divorce, the laws around it, child support, like all this stuff, right? So this is why it's one of the most important decisions for you to know what you're doing with dating and not put it off, right? Because a lot of guys, they get the body in order and they get the finances in order, and then they have no idea what they're doing with women, right? And that happens a lot. Like I see it so often, and you see it with celebrities and like superstars too, right? And basically what I'm trying to get at is you need to actually have a bit of experience behind this. So don't put off dating. Like actually get enough experience so you have, let's say, like a pair of glasses, right? It sounds funny, but like a lens where you can see red flags and basically filter or vet, or another way of putting it is qualifying it. So basically, let's say you want a healthy long-term relationship where they're supportive. It's easy for you to get more done because you have like one of those kind of like ride or die girls, as cheesy as that saying is, right? It's like you're going to do a lot better. There's a successful guy and there's a successful guy with an amazing woman behind him, and it basically skyrockets his level of productivity, success, right? Because she wants to help you crush it in life. So I hope this helps give you an idea, right? Because, and even in that example, like let's switch the successful guy. Let's say he dates a girl who's not a good fit for him. It's like two horses pulling in different directions, or it's like she's an anchor rather than a sail. Sail like for a boat, right? So one sinks and one skyrockets, basically. And that's why it's so important for you to learn how to basically, if you want this, interview, like basically learn, and don't always listen to what they say, watch their actions. Get a good idea of who they are and pace the relationship properly. That's another big one here, is not pacing, because a lot of guys will be like, oh, this girl's really cool, I'm going to hang out with her all the time, right? When realistically, it shouldn't be that often. Like what would help you the most to keep a logical brain on with the emotions, like a level head, would be in the beginning. You can ramp up to more later on, of course, but either every 2 weeks or once a week, you see that same girl, right? And that gives you some space between work and all the things you need to do to be excited for the next date, especially if it's early in the dating process, right? Like, because if you're hanging out 7 days a week because you're so excited about each other, well, it gives you no wiggle room, right? And if you back off, then one of you or both of you is going to be like, well, what's wrong? What's like why are we hanging out less? And hanging out that often early in the process too, it's kind of like you got all the emotions, the blinders, the honeymoon phase, and it's like throwing sand up in your eyes. Like, you can't really think or see straight when all this, like the intimacy is going on and your emotions, you're like, oh, this girl's really cool, blah, blah, blah. You find out layers of who they are over time. So if you pace it a bit more, it'll help you, because you're not going to know who they are until you've been dating them for, at least a few months. And, I've heard guys say that they didn't really know who their girl was until they were 5 years into the relationship, and that's when it didn't work out for them. So this is, again, why it's so important for you to learn how to filter and vet for the right fit for you. Like, see who's good long-term potential or mother material, like these kinds of things, if that's something that you want, which I think a lot of guys can agree with. Even if they have convinced themselves otherwise, I think somewhere in the back of their head, they know that eventually that's what they want, and they want to get to that point. Even if they've gone through some tough breakups and they got some ego around it, or they're in the Playboy phase, or whatever they're doing, right? Like, the Playboy phase doesn't end well, by the way. I made another video on that. But basically, developing this ability to interview for someone, like pace the relationship, because that's how you're going to interview properly. You're going to learn more about them a few months in, after the honeymoon phase, if you end up moving in together, there's like a saying, like, you don't really know someone until you live with them. So there's that. Then after they get the commitment from you, like you define the relationship, or you're married, or you have kids together. Like, there's layers of the cake or the onion, shout out to Shrek, or parfait, shout out to Donkey, that you're going to learn over time, and only time will tell, right? As cliche as that is. But this will help you interview, and that also sounds funny, I know. But you want to treat it like that, like you're hiring, if you want a really healthy long-term relationship, green flags, supportive, you love and respect each other, a great mother to your children in the future, right? Like, you're basically interviewing subtly, not always listening to what they say, but watching them, and you'll see if they're a good candidate for the job. This video has definitely been long enough, probably my longest one so far, or close to it, and I definitely dropped more secret sauce than planned, but that's actually kind of why I like doing this video unscripted, is because it's like common dating mistakes, and then also perspectives that could be helpful for you. So I really hope this helps, and you got this, bro.